9:00 in the morning. I'm calling to order the October 12th meeting of the Board of Directors of the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments. Can we go ahead, Andy, and establish a quorum and do some introductions?
Sure. Why don't we start with self? We can start with self introductions in the room, and then we'll identify board members on the Zoom. Just Andy Gunning, PPACG.
Dave Donaldson, Colorado Springs City Council.
Todd Dixon, Mayor, Green Mountain Falls.
John Graham, Mayor, Manitou Springs.
Richard Zamora, CDOT.
Roland Gardine, Mayor Pro Tem Callahan.
Eric Stone, Teller County Commissioner.
Holly Williams, El Paso County Commissioner.
Yolanda Avila, Colorado Springs City Councilwoman, District 4.
And I'm Sharon Thompson, Mayor of Fountain. Let's go to online for elected officials.
Grant Havener, trustee, Town of Palmer Lake.
Dick Elsner, Park County Commissioner.
And I can't see any more on my screen. Do we have any more elected officials online? Oh, thank you. Okay, that looks
That
like
should be for now,
1,
yeah.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a quorum.
We have a quorum. We have 7 in the room and then a couple
Right.
online. Yep.
Okay, first item on the agenda is number 2, agenda approval. We do have a request from Andy Gunning, if you'd like to make that request right now for the agenda.
Sure. Under public comments, if we could move the staff recognition up to item B and have Kate Hatton present right after that, that would be appreciated. We had to have a couple of staff members with the conflict at 9:30, so that would just help us get through the recognition portion a little bit quicker.
Okay, so we have a request for public comments, then staff recognition, Kate Hatton. Is that everybody agreeable to that? Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So do we have a motion for approval of the agenda?
Move to approve the agenda with the changes stated therein.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the agenda. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. I was gonna say, please vote out of habit. Please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, thank you. The agenda passes. We're on to item 3A, public comments. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to do public comments? We have 2 people. Okay, if we could go with Ms. Stout Meininger. Oh, all right, you can come up first, Gail. And state your name for the record and who you represent, please.
My name is Gail Nels. I'm with Invita Transportation Agency here in the Pikes Peak region. I just wanted to share some good news with the Council of Governments that each year the Colorado Association of Transit Agency has an annual meeting. And this year we had almost an Emmy sweep of the transit agencies here represented by the Council of Government for awards. We have Mountain Metro won for the Transit Project of the Year with their circulator downtown. We had the City of Cripple Creek with their small community transit agency with what they're doing up there with their bus facility and their trolley. We have in Teller County, the Human Service Organization was Teller Senior Coalition for their support in Teller County. And Gail Invita, I got Transit Champion of the World of the year for innovation of what we do.
Yay, congratulations.
So thank you all for your support.
Congrats to everybody. Thank you. All right, I like the little slip there, transit rep of the world. I like that. That was we think you are, Gail. We think you are. All right, Ms. Stout Meininger, if you could come up and introduce yourself, please. It's good to see you.
See you too.
Yes, if you can watch it, pull it down to you a little bit. Thank you.
Deborah Stout Meininger, community advocate, citizen scientist. I come about my concerns about what's happening in Colorado Springs with the Drake plant and the shutting it down. And before the Colorado Springs Board Utility gets into 50 Shades of Enron with that, signing up with other Western community businesses that take care of deciding who gets what for all the members. And that's looks like what they're trying to get us into, unfortunately, which could be very, very hard on our utilities for the emergency services in the towns as that have that electricity, as well as for the surrounding military installations who are signing up with contracts with Colorado Springs utilities. Now, one of the things is that Excel is big on getting a lot of their electricity from the hydroelectric out in California. But what's having a problem is the droughts over the last 2 years have caused reservoirs to dry up. The second largest one, Lake Oroville, saw water levels drop so low in 2021 that the hydropower plant was shut down for the first time in history. Lost power can't easily be replaced with renewable sources that fluctuate during the day, like wind and solar. When California's hydro capacity dropped from 2019 to 2020, much of the difference was replaced by natural gas generation and electricity imports from other states, as well as according to the data from California Energy Commission. The big problem with that is if they're having brownouts and blackouts constantly, we don't want that in Colorado Springs or in El Paso County. There's enough challenges, especially in the wintertime, when we have those storms and when we have a pull on the electricity, and that's with Drake Plant up and running. And right now they're shutting it down and saying, oh, it's going to be down and we're not going to have any use of it until we build more and natural gas turbines, which we already have 2 on the Drake Plant. Why are we going to shut those down and put in more? That tells me that somebody's not being totally clear and honest with what's going on with our utilities on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty. Would anyone like to respond, or we just move on? Okay, seeing no comments in the room. All right, is there anybody else here for public comments or presentations? Anybody online for public comment, or did you receive any public comments?
We did not.
No hands up in chat, no comments in chat. Looks like everyone's good online.
Okay, thank you. All right, we will move on to item C, that is now item B, staff recognition.
Good morning, Barb Watson, HR Manager for PPACG. This morning, I'm here to recognize 2 staff members for their service to PPACG. First of all, Kent Matthews. He is our Family Caregiver Center Supervisor. Kent has been with us for 15 years. He started on October 1st, 2007. He started as the only employee in the Family Caregiver Center program, and he has developed this into a robust program that is helping support caregivers for seniors in the Pikes Peak region. Congratulations, Ken. And thank you. And here. You want to say anything?
We're doing a photo.
Amazing work over the past 15 years. And we've talked a lot about senior challenges in the region here in the past year or so, especially coming out of the pandemic. And Kent and his small but mighty team have just done amazing work working with family members that take care of seniors. And it's just, I don't know how they do it. It's a daunting job, but we're making a big difference, and just really, truly appreciate everything Kent and his team have been doing. So, yeah.
Thank you, Kent.
Next, we're going to honor Lori McGinnis. Lori has been with PPACG for 10 years this time around. Lori has more of a history with PPACG than just the 10 years. So Lori started with PPACG in 2009 until 2011 as a transportation case manager. After that, she went to work for the state of Colorado as the SHIP and SMP operations manager, which was also helping PPACG, AAA in several areas. She rejoined PPACG on September 4th, 2012, and is now our regional long-term care ombudsman. Thank you, Lori.
I'm wondering if we want to have them come over here for photos so we don't get them in front of the beautiful, I know the wood, they did a really good job on the wood over there, but if you'd like to come over here and kind of get it in front of the emblem. Yeah, just in case you haven't heard we had a window obviously broken out obviously by a big rock, and that's gonna be taken care of pretty.
Yes, very soon. But again, for Lori, just really appreciate everything she's been doing. We had a second really successful roundtable discussion around long-term care needs that seniors and their families are dealing with just last week. And you'll hear a lot more about that, about some workforce development initiatives that are coming out of that. So finally making a difference. I think Lori made the comment that she was having that same exact conversation with folks 35 years ago. So we're hoping we can finally start moving the needle and make a difference in our long-term care needs in the region, especially within our community. I think we're a good test case to try out some new initiatives to get a more fulsome workforce in our long-term care facilities. So thank you for that. One last set of staff recognitions. This will be fairly brief, but we have had 3 new hires since last month, and super excited to fill a couple of really key positions. Amruta Desai, stand up. Amruta, she's a new senior staff accountant and fills out our awesome finance team that we have here within PPACG. She just joined us a couple of weeks ago. Cheryl Richards, our new office manager. You'll remember Jess Bechtel. Cheryl has taken Jess's position and is doing just an amazing job. So you'll see a lot of communications from Cheryl with the board on board meetings and workshops and all that good stuff. And then last but not least, Jared Werner is our new public information officer, doing some amazing work as well. And I think I owe Susan Whelan big time because both Jared and Cheryl came from El Paso County Public Health. So probably owe her a pizza and a 6-pack or something, but we're a planner to be named later. But really appreciate our new team here on PPACG. So thank you.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you, Andy. All right, next item is Kate Hatton, Homefront Military Network update. Thank you, Kate, for coming in.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. Kate Hatton with Homefront Military Network. I like to come once a year and give you all an update because this program and part of the program it really came from recommendations through PPACG and the Fort Carson Regional Growth Plan several moons ago. Anyway, so just to give you an update of who we are, what we do, we help service members, veterans, and their families survive and thrive. Is someone driving the slides? Can I, next slide, please? This slide will go away eventually, but we merged right before COVID hit. So people are still trying to, explain. Oh, perfect. Do that. Let me just, how do I just be able to go up and down? Hang on for a second. Sorry, Will. Where's I can't see I can't see the buttons. There we go. Oh, there we go. It's be in there. Okay, got it. Okay. All right. So just real quick, Peak Military Care Network, which is the program that came out of the Fort Carson Regional Growth Plan, and the Homefront Cares merged in January of 2020. And we do the mission of both organizations, really to assist service members, veterans, and families, providing case management, financial assistance, and really connecting them to the range of services that are available in our community and our state. It's going. Okay. So what we do is that's our mission. I just kind of went through that to connect service members, veterans, and families to resources offered by our trusted community partners and to provide emergency financial assistance. And again, we do that in multiple ways. And so let me kind of walk through what those programs are. Financial assistance is a big part of what we do statewide. We provide assistance with housing, rent and mortgage assistance, utility bill assistance, and transportation. Folks' cars break down, they can't get to a VA appointment or to keep their jobs. So that helps keep them financially stable. So that's the kind of financial assistance we primarily do. We help, again, all eras, all branches of service. Primarily the folks that we help are veterans and family members. We provide navigation, and that's a key piece. We are finding people having more complex needs, and it's not just a simple, boy, I just got into, one kind of simple trouble. This will help me resolve all my problems. If you pay my utility bill, it's usually complicated, very complicated, multiple issues, multiple needs, multiple referrals to many agencies, and helping folks walk through that system and navigate, whether it takes 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years, is what our team does to really make sure they have the tools and the resources they need to survive and thrive. And then education and outreach. Half of the battle that we find is that people don't know what resources are available, or they're overwhelmed because there are a lot of options actually here, or they just don't know where to start because they're so in crisis. And so really being able to kind of walk with them every step of the way and make them understand what their resources are. Also to make sure the community understands the unique needs of military and veteran families, and to make sure that community organizations know how to reach back to the military and the VA. So the goal really is a multi-legged stool. No one agency or one kind of component can do it alone. So we want to make sure we're all working together. And the ways we connect for folks can connect to help for us. The Network of Care website, again, that came out of the work that we did with the Fort Carson Regional Growth Plan. Dolly's going to come fix me again. No, help me do it right, because I'm so. And so the Network of Care website has a lot of information. If folks can navigate themselves and find what they need, that's great. And if they can't, they can reach out to us. There's an online form on that where people can just say, hey, this is my name and my contact information. Please reach out to me for assistance. That goes to our case management team, and our team will call them back, email them back. Or again, our phone number, which the 719-577-7417. And I think these slides are in the packet. So, but I'm happy to share information and share brochures as well too. So you don't have to memorize all this. And then we again, that virtual assistance form I mentioned, or our info account. So just can you help me with the next slide? Thanks. And so again, part of what we do, that community, again, no one entity can do it around. In addition to our military installations in the VA, we have 48 community partners who provide this full range of services: advocacy, veterans benefits assistance, behavioral health, caregiver support. We use Kent and Lori all the time. I don't mean use. I mean, we utilize the services of the Area Agency on Aging, a great resource that works with, that we work with a lot of folks. We work with Invita. We work with a lot of folks who are very much a part of this organization as well. Next slide. And just so you see the big picture, those are the 48 partner agencies that really cover the breadth and depth, everything from early care and education through hospice and palliative care. So the goal is really to make sure that the full range of needs, anything that touches a service member, veteran, or family, everybody's working together and not against each other to meet those needs. Next slide. Thank you. One of the questions we started asking in March of 2020 is, how has the pandemic affected your demand for services? So the partner agencies who reported, and reporting has been a bit of a challenge in all honesty in 2020, when people left their offices in 2021, still trying to get back in the groove. And this is 2021 data that, it's been a mix of things. Some agencies closed their doors for a while or have seen less services because people aren't doing things they used to do. Or in some people like us, we've seen a big increase in demand for services. So the pandemic has really added an extra layer of, trauma and behavioral health challenges and financial challenges that we're still seeing to some extent. Next slide, please. So collectively, the two organizations again merged, and over time since 2003, when both entities initially started, Peak Military Care Network partnered with Homefront Military Network, which is another National Homeland Defense Foundation. I'll get it right. After it was a program here, and that foundation also started in 2003. So really, the histories of both organizations goes back for a very long time, basically since the beginning of the after 9/11 and the global war on terror. And so collectively, our two organizations, before we merged and since the merger, have served more than 211,000, provided 211,000 services across all programs, and provided probably close to, at this point now, $6 million in emergency financial assistance. Let me repeat that number: $6 million in emergency financial assistance. Those numbers go through 2001, including this year, where we're over $200,000 in financial assistance. There's a great need for people who need just that bridge support to hopefully get them whole. And the partner network has served, we track who they're serving and how they're serving more than 424,000. They provided more than 424,000 services. That is duplicated services. Somebody could have a child at Head Start, CPCD, be going to Pikes Peak, now State College, And then, getting services from others. So that's really the collective kind of the whole ecosystem and how much demand for services there are, and how partners and the community services are now tracking and understanding the military and veteran clientele they're serving. We also do, again, I mentioned that outreach and making sure community organizations understand what each other does, as well as the military and VA, so they know how to reach out to the community if it's not something they provide. And so we've provided more than 2,200 partner participants education and training around various services. Next slide, please. As the trainings are really important, we want to make sure that those are valuable. We've been doing those since 2012, tracking the analysis since about 2014 or 2015. And across the board, the goal is to increase collaboration and minimize duplication and fragmentation of services, and ease connections to services, help agencies better serve their clients, understand military and veteran culture, and really give them more tools in their toolbox to better serve. And what they report back is that we continue to do that. And that's what we want to be able to do. Next slide, please. Hope Front Military Network's direct impact just for 2021. Just from context, tracking, and we were tracking for the most part how both agencies were serving, but we saw a 300% increase in call volume in 2020. Some of that was pandemic, some of that was kind of a victim of our own success in terms of getting people to know about their services available. Please reach out, but huge increase in calls. And pre-COVID, about 10% of those callers really needed that long-term case management that I mentioned. They had a lot of complicated needs and needed someone to stick with them for a long time. Last year, more than half had that level of need. So our case management team is very busy trying to help people deal with an immediate crisis and then help set folks up for success long-term. Just in 2021, referrals increased 17%, and that was kind of consistent with the increase in call volume. And 94% of clients expressed improved opinions of community supports, and 86% of all clients indicated lower stress and anxiety levels. We also track our financial assistance clients, and last year we served more than 4,000 unique clients. Of those, 160 families got emergency financial assistance. We sent a lot of folks to other services. There were more than had that financial need, but that's who we actually provided emergency financial assistance grants to. And 84% of those indicated that their financial situation was improved 6 months after assistance. And as we're still kind of dealing with lingering effects of some economic challenges, that's a pretty good number. We want to get it better, obviously, but 100% were still stably housed and indicated lower stress and anxiety levels. So we're making a difference. That financial assistance isn't just about, paying a utility bill. It's about really peace of mind and making sure folks are whole, and really kind of, we call it that sort of upstream suicide prevention factor. Next slide, please. Again, this picture shows really the increase in volume that we've seen over the years, a huge increase in calls, connections to services, increase in numbers of the partner network that grew. It was actually in 2012 we started with 16 partner agencies in a pilot, and now we're at 48. And again, trying to track referrals, who are folks referring to. Is the network working, and are there gaps in services? We didn't refer anybody for this service because it doesn't exist in our community. I don't think that's the case, but sometimes obviously there aren't necessarily enough resources to go around, particularly when you get into housing and some of those things. But overall, just a big increase in our capacity to serve collectively. Next slide. And that's really about it, other than, again, we consider the folks that we really are stakeholders in this are not just those folks that we provide direct assistance through navigation or financial assistance, but also those we work with, the partner agencies, other community partners, the VA. And so really, again, the goal is to make their jobs easier and better serve. Ideally, the goal is to put us all out of business because nobody's in crisis. We're not there yet. I'm going to keep dreaming. I think that's really it. Next slide. I think it's just how to connect to us and all those social media things that I know do very well. You heard that before. Twitter, what's that? Anyway, I wanted to give you an update. That's kind of a very brief overview. I brought some brochures, some I'll leave for the Area Agency on Aging, and some I can leave with you all. I'm happy to answer your questions. I just wanted to let you know that this started off as we weren't even sure what it was going to be. And as we created an MOU and had a steering team that met for 15 months in this room around how do we do this? How do we better connect services? It's really, grown and kind of, I think we figured out the formula that we want to do. It's just a matter of the capacity of needs. So I will stop talking now and see if you guys have questions. Yes, sir.
Congratulations to your team.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Roland.
Now, is this just with the Army? You first come on board saying something about just Fort Carson.
No, it's all installations, all branches of service, Guard, Reserve, active duty, family members. I would say the most of the people who reach out to us, particularly on the financial assistance side, are veterans, but we do see some Guard and reservists who might be underemployed if they don't have any job besides that kind of part-time work. And we do see some active duty folks who are struggling. We work with the installations to try and address their needs, but any branch, any branch, any.
Is this including the aging veterans or is it?
Oh, absolutely. Aging veterans are there. We have a lot of younger veterans here, but we absolutely see a good percentage who are 60 and older. And again, we work with the area agents and Aging, Silver Key, and lots of others. So definitely see older veterans. And the challenge with older veterans, in all honesty, is those who are on fixed incomes, whether it's disability or Social Security, and then their rents are going up $500 a month, and that's kind of pricing them out.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Any other questions, or does anybody have their hand up online?
No hands up online and no comments in chat.
Councilmember Donaldson?
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to let Raleigh know that I did ask Kate to limit it to the Army, but she said we have to let it be open to all veterans. So, so even Marines.
And a Coast Guard person now again. So
There you go. Yeah, one of those every once in a while.
every once in a while we do get a coastie.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much and congratulations to what you're doing. I think the impact in our community is noticeable on the numbers that you're seeing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
And if you haven't RSVP'd for their fundraiser breakfast on
November 17th at the Broadmoor, 7:30. Yeah. See me afterwards. I'm happy to connect you.
Right. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. All right. That takes us on to item 4, consent items. These items will be acted upon as a whole unless they are called upon for discussion by a board member or a citizen wishing to address the board. We have 2 items, A and B, the minutes and the financial reports. What would PPACG members like to do?
Move approval of the consent items.
I'll second John Graham.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Please, if you want to do that, please say aye or yes.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay or no. Okay, item passes unanimously. Thank you very much. We're on to item 5, military installation reports. Do we have any military members online? I don't see any in the room.
Hello, this is Lieutenant Colonel Bill McLaughlin here online representing Space Base Delta One. The updates that we have are one, just to let everyone know that next week we have Corona coming up again. So that will involve the officials, our high-level generals, and the some of the other high-level Air Force officials transiting through Peterson, coming up to the to USAFA, and also going across to Schriever. So they'll be out and about in town, and we'll be holding the events for that all throughout next week. Also, I'd like on a more closer to home basis, just to thank Mr. Travis Easton, Mr. Jack Ladley from the city and county DPWs respectively. We've been working, and we haven't gotten there yet, but we've been making slow and steady progress on leveraging some of their capabilities through intergovernmental service agreement construct to be able to have some mutually beneficial services between the bases and the local government. So we'll keep working on that, but I wanted to recognize them for both their willingness and their patience while we work through those processes. Barring anything, any questions, that's all I have for you today. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for the Lieutenant Colonel? Okay, seeing none. Do we have any other military members online?
Melissa Stats, did you want to make any comments for the board? Okay, looks like.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
No, this is my first PPACG meeting and I have just been in listen and receive mode. So thank you for the invite.
Thank you very much for coming. And if you want to reach out to Andy and kind of figure out how the whole program kind of works, he'd be happy to talk with you about that. So we love getting updates.
Thank you.
Yeah, we like getting
Thank
updates from our military bases and seeing what's going on. Okay, that takes us on to item 6, action items. The first one is action item A, transportation electrification infrastructure study adoption. Danelle Miller. Good morning, Danelle.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning. Today, we have for you the transportation electrification infrastructure study. As you may remember, this document was created in-house by our PPACG staff. And the document of this document is really to provide some guidance and some resources for any local jurisdictions or other entities in the area that may be interested in seeking discretionary grant funding for electric vehicle charging. When entities apply for these kinds of funds, it's often a question on the application whether or not there is a regional study or a regional plan that this project fits into. So this is in part meant to help with that criteria. Also, just as you probably remember this, but I'll go over a little bit. The document primarily pulls from other data sources and reports as much as possible. It references the state vehicle goals and some projections from some other reports, but it is not a prescriptive document. It does not contain a specific list of projects. The document has been shared with our Transportation Advisory Committee, the Community Advisory Committee. It's also been shared with members of the county, city, and town managers, and also with the members of a regional electric working group that we've started standing up here at PPACG and hope to coordinate as is useful in the future. We'd released it for public comment. That period was August 12th through September 13th. We did make a few or several changes rather in response to those comments from the public, but also comments that we received here at the board and through our committee process as well. I'm not going to walk through the full document today. I'd be happy to go to any specific areas you'd like, but I did want to go through the substantive changes in the document, which are kind of outlined in your memo. So first, we did make some clarifications and some language updates throughout the document regarding the goal of the document, the purpose, and also the outcomes of the document. We wanted to make it clear what our scope of the document was and try to make sure that we weren't going beyond that. We also made some updates to the document just as time has passed. The Colorado National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Deployment Plan, you might have heard it as the NEVI plan, that has been submitted to the Federal Highways Administration, and it has been approved by FHWA. So we did include that in the document. The NEVI plan really doesn't have too much impact currently in our area due to the fact that I-25 is the only current federally designated electric vehicle route. But it does identify a couple of chargers that are that could potentially be upgraded in our area. There was also a plan put out by a study rather put out by the Colorado Energy Office. That's an electric vehicle equity study. So we did update the document and let people know that that was available. Colorado Energy Office created an equity dashboard and a prioritization tool that I believe will be used in supporting some grant applications, that kind of thing. So we wanted to make sure that was included as a resource. The most substantial changes really occur in the area called considerations for EV adoption. That's in section 2. We heard from some folks here, as well as our committees and the public regarding charger networks, charger maintenance and operations, and then also electric grid readiness and electric utility infrastructure. So we did include some information on both those subjects in the document itself, specifically regarding the electric grid readiness. We put some information in there from CDOT and the Colorado Energy Office. However, we also noted that Colorado Springs Utilities is conducting its own electrification strategy plan. And we included some information about some rebate and some incentive opportunities that are going on through local electric providers. We did talk to Core Electric just recently, which serves Teller and Park counties. They are also doing some of their own projections and their own studies. They recently did a survey with their customer base regarding EV adoption. They also just got a grant actually from Charge Ahead Colorado. They're putting 11 chargers in their service area. One of these is a level 2 charger that will be in downtown Woodland Park. And there will be a level 3 charger going in along Highway 285 in Grant. We also talked to Fountain Utilities. And we have
A question. Excuse me.
yes.
What is the difference between a level 2 and a level 3?
Yes, that's a good question. And we do put some definition behind that in the document itself. A level 2 charger is slower than a level 3. However, a level 3 charger requires significantly more. It's an upgraded infrastructure and it's much more expensive to install. So that's kind of the difference there. It's really a difference in how fast it charges the vehicles.
Does that include how many charging stations there are within the bigger station?
No, you can have different numbers of actual plugs with various levels of chargers. So that it doesn't really, the number of plugs doesn't impact what level charger it is, if that makes sense.
You gave just a real quick, like if you plugged your car into level 2, it would take X amount of time potentially to
Yes.
charge, and a level 3 would take this amount of time.
Yes, let me actually pull that up because I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's in the document.
And assume there's a significant price difference between the two.
There is a significant price difference between the two. And that was something we talked a little bit with the representative from Core Electric. So there's actually 4 levels of charging, but the 4th hasn't really been adopted too much yet. Technology is always changing, of course. A level 2 charger charges approximately 25 miles of range in an hour. And it requires a dedicated 240 volt or 208 volt circuit. A level 3, it's also called the direct current or fast charging. It can often charge a car to capacity within an hour. So it can charge, according to the Alternative Fuel Data Center, it can charge 100 to 200 miles depending on your battery and depending on what kind of vehicle you have in 30 minutes. But yes, it is significantly more expensive and much more expensive to install. And that was something we talked about with Core. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, there's someone online, I think. Yes, thank you. We do have a comment online, it looks like. Richard Elsner, would you like to speak?
Yeah, I've got a question. You mentioned a charging station in Grant. What level was that again?
That's a level 3 charger. And I don't believe the specific site has been chosen yet. I believe they're working with a private landowner in that area.
So, and then an hour's worth of charging at a level 3 gets you how far?
Depending on the vehicle you have, depending on its battery, it could be 200 miles or more. It could fully charge a vehicle's battery within an hour.
Okay. I was just, Grant's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, and I was hoping that if they did charge there, they could get somewhere.
Commissioner Williams.
Oh, okay. I can't resist this tongue in cheek. Did they also put a trail or a restaurant by the Grant Charger so that there's something to do? But that's a snarky comment, so you don't have to answer that one. But the more serious comment was, if you go back up a page, we had talked about the need, since I-25 on the Colorado state plan is the only one with chargers. That neglects Highway 24 in El Paso and Teller County. And that's something that we wanted to keep on our radar, to pursue, to get added to an electric vehicle charging stations. Because if we don't add that, then why buy electric vehicles out in Falcon? Or why buy electric vehicles in Woodland Park? And so if we're going to be pushed into electrical vehicles and having to sit at a charging station for an hour, then we need to make sure that we have Highway 24 on that.
Yes, we have talked to CDOT to let them know when nominations happen again, that is a roadway that we would like included. And just so you're aware, CDOT is scheduled to be here to talk about their NEVI plan and their electric vehicle program next month. I think we scheduled them for November, but we can push it back if we need to because of the Park County.
Yeah, maybe pending the location and what we have on the agenda. But yeah, next month or two, we'll have CDOT here to talk about their assumptions statewide, how they see this working overall.
Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairman. And I think it's important, obviously, that we have the study to know where they are. I think people who have electric cars probably know where their local charging stations are, if outside of their home, if they're needed. Probably the issue is for most people is when they're actually away from their home, is that they're not aware of where these charging stations are. Some of them are really smart cars like the $100,000 Teslas, and they will just probably drive your car to the station. I don't know if it'll actually plug it in, but it very well could. My big question, really on all of this, and could be a comment to CDOT or otherwise, but is just the proper role of government. I don't recall the government putting in gas stations so that people could buy gas. I don't recall people, putting in large propane tanks where people could come and fill propane tanks for their grills or for home heating or any other use. The private market took care of that because there was a demand for it. I think, there may be a quasi-governmental role in the form of Colorado Springs Utilities or a Core Electric for them to ensure that they have a sufficient electrical grid to be able to supply electricity to the private industry, who should be providing energy for these cars. So, I kind of just, as we're going down, the pathway here, and of course my fear, and it was kind of alluded to by Commissioner Williams, is the forced mandate where now everyone must, if they're going to have a car, has to have electric cars, and that just goes against every fiber of my being. I think electric cars are really cool. They don't really work for my lifestyle, and that's fine, but I recognize that they would for others. But that's my only concern, is first off is that we're maybe expending a bunch of money for a need that the general public won't adopt unless forced. And then the second piece is of course that force in itself. So that's doesn't move the ball. Sorry, but that's.
We did hear
I
that
think the
comment
best-
also from
yeah.
the public.
I
so.
think the best one I've seen is at the movie theater. Plug your car in, you go to the movie theater for a couple hours, and the movie theater's paying for the charging station, and you go in, you have something to do there.
It definitely would be a smart part of a model, possibly for restaurants or movie theaters or anybody else, to put in a charging station just so they can hopefully attract some business. But that being said, I'm not sure how much business there actually is out there when you consider the total number of cars on the road. And again, when you look at the future, I know that everybody's promising blue sky and roses when it comes to everybody's going to be driving electric cars by 2035. But I just don't see that as a reality. Primarily, I drove here today in a 31-year-old Honda. I'll probably still have it 10 years from now because it's a Honda. And I've got a 15-year-old Toyota. I don't really see, there are a lot of people out there that drive vehicles for a very long time. And even with the force out there, to make other vehicles not available, I just don't, there are some people that just aren't going to go there.
Thank you. Commissioner Williams?
At the STAC committee, there was definitely some frustration because this was a presentation that if you build it, they will come. And many of the rural county representatives were definitely raising their eyebrows at that because it's more of it shouldn't be a government builds and they will come. It's kind of like if you go back to Field of Dreams, government didn't have to build baseball fields or softball fields or any of that. That was something that people did. And so I just go back to the time when my grandfather had a Model A and would go and fill it up. You have to buy the cars first and then build the gas stations. But this is a different type of government, I guess we're dealing with. It was definitely, I felt like we were listening to a plan given by a University of Colorado professor. No offense to the professor industry, but and that we were listening to something that was essentially a dream that government should build for us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Garland.
Thank you, Mr.
Gardner.
Chairman. That's the cost. And when you put one of them in your garage?
That is information from a previous study. Yes, that those are the costs. So a home level charger between 500 and 2,000. Yes.
I think that probably the 500 one is if you have it as an add-on to a new build.
Actually, yeah, a new build.
Yeah.
Retrofit.
If you retrofit it, it's going to be, I mean, I think you guys already go for about $3,500. Somebody did it for, yeah. Further questions? I know you're not finished. So.
No. I was just saying, we did also talk to Fountain Utilities. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to Mountain Electric, Mountain View. I believe we're going to be able to talk with them tomorrow. Fountain didn't have current plans to install any chargers. And they, along with CORE and CSU as well, they expressed some concern with installing chargers in certain areas, depending on the distribution. Installation of a charger in one area might not be a big deal. In some other areas, it may be quite expensive. So that's definitely a consideration. I know Fountain is also looking long-term at some of what would be the load if EV adoption increases. And I think that's something that all of the utility providers are looking at. It is kind of a question of as Commissioner Stone touched on, the cost and who pays for it, and will it be utilized? Are we installing things before they'll be utilized? So these are definitely things that the utilities are thinking about and talking about. Does anybody else have any additional questions? I think that's really the bulk of the changes that we made within the document. We'd certainly be able to make additional changes if you'd like. We are looking for adoption today, but we are certainly open to making changes as needed.
Do we have a deadline that if we didn't adopt this today and waited another month, we would be out of compliance or ruin your timeline or something?
No, this is not a required document. It's just something that was done in-house because we knew that conversations were going on in the area. So there is no specific deadline attached to it.
Okay, Commissioner Stone?
Yeah, just for clarification, this is a study, not a plan. right?
Correct.
So we're not really doing anything other than saying we accept the information as valid. And perhaps accurate as best as can be accurate. In many ways, though, I kind of look at this as I do, broadband. Back when broadband was first coming out, there were a lot of communities that rushed to putting in, a broadband infrastructure that ultimately really didn't get there for 30 years. And by then, the technology had changed so dramatically that they had invested millions, hundreds of millions of dollars into an infrastructure that would be obsolete by the time that the industry caught up with it. And that's what I fear what we're looking at now is, honestly, an hour for 25 miles of range is kind of an untenable, it's just an unworkable thing for anybody who lives outside of a metro area. I could understand maybe going somewhere and plugging in for 25 minutes while you're at King Soopers just so you can get home if you happen to be caught out like that. But the reality of Teller County is you're going to be spending hours, and that risk of hours, and that doesn't include, and nobody ever seems to bring this up, but in Grant, I've been to Grant. I don't know if you guys have been to Grant. There's nothing out there except maybe charging station going in. But the thing is in the middle of January, you got to run a heater in that car too. And we know that that the biggest thing that cuts the range of these heaters are the elements, or not the heaters, but the batteries are the elements. And so, are you really going to get 25 miles of range in an hour, or more than that if it's a high-speed charger? If you're running the heater the entire time you're sitting there waiting for your car to charge, we've all done that with our phones from time to time, where we have our phone plugged in, but we're using it really, really aggressively in video and things. We go, wow, I only got 2% in a half an hour. How is that possible? Well, because you were using it. Same thing with it. I'm concerned about blowing a ton of money before the technology and the adoption really catches up with it. But I could give a treatise on this.
All right, are there any more questions or comments for Danelle, either in the room or online?
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment. Mayor Dixon, I totally agree with Commissioner Stone. This is feeling very forced, and I'm just not sure that I have to agree with what's the government's role in this build it and have people use it. I'm not sure if that's going to work. I agree with you on the Wi-Fi, the internet type stuff that they were trying to do, and the technology advanced beyond what they had originally done, and they spent a lot of money and really didn't have what they needed in the end. And so I would have to agree with Commissioner Stone's comments that it's really feeling forced, and I have to question the government's role in implementation.
Thank you, Mayor Graham. Mayor Pro Tem Garland?
Yeah,
I think I'm
Madam-
saying your name wrong. I'm sorry. Gardine, thank you. Okay,
You'd like a
I can't
sergeant?
read my own scribbles here. Thank you. Sorry.
The other part of that is the servicing, okay? If the person then gets outside during, and how are they going to be able to service it if they have a real problem? Okay, that's going to be a whole infrastructure in itself. And I don't see anybody addressing that at all. Callahan is more than 25 miles away from anything, so, okay.
Although the county fair is there. So to go back to the purpose of the study, the study in and of itself is really good, probably in the subject matter. We probably do need to adopt it because this is where the federal and the state government are going right now, is that we do need to have a study on hand so that when we go to apply for the grant, we can then apply for it. And so I would state that we do need to go ahead and adopt it. I didn't know if everybody here was comfortable adopting it today, that I'd make that as a motion first, that we move to adopt the study.
Okay, I'm not quite sure we're there to the motion. I think we have a couple more comments here. So I think Yolanda.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to say the same thing. This is a study, right? And a study and an effort that if grants do come up, that we're able to apply for it. That's it. It's not a plan. It's not a mandate. It's just to have that available, just to be ready. opportunity meets preparedness. So we can go on about the effects of government, but this is the reality. And if we don't want to not catch that ship when it sails. So I'm getting the feeling that people don't want to adopt the study. And I really appreciate all the work that Danelle put in this and the whole PPACG staff put into this, and getting us the information of what's out there and just explaining it to us. So I would move that we adopt the study.
Okay, can we hold off on that for just another minute? Because
We don't need to hold on a motion. We can discuss after
Okay.
a motion's been made. So.
Okay, so make sure everybody's comfortable with, okay, so we have
And
a
I'll
motion.
second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor to adopt the transportation electrification infrastructure study adoption, and I believe we still need some discussion.
Yeah, and
Commissioner Stowe.
if I may, Madam Chair, I don't oppose adopting the study. That was kind of why we clarified before. But where I'm going to have concerns as we move forward is, if the state comes forward and says, well, we'll pay for 80% of this great plan, or at least what they think was a great plan, that's where I'm going to have, some issues in my particular county if things are coming forward of, are we going to invest even, 20% of a bad investment is still 20% of a bad investment. So I don't have a big issue with it, but I think the discussion is good. I think the conversation is good. But I do agree with Councilwoman Avila that, it is a study and just having it. And also, as I don't want to tell, the El Paso County that they can't apply for a grant, if they see a need for a charging station, Meridian Ranch ain't Teller County, and we don't have anything that even looks like that. So that's not my job to tell them what to do. So I would support adopting it.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the motion on the floor?
Madam Chair, just to maybe throw a little bit of a different counterpoint, and I fully appreciate Commissioner Stone and Mayor Dixon's comments about the role of government. I frequently find myself telling constituents that, no, this is not something government does, or, a different topic. We don't necessarily feed artists or whatnot, subsidize them. But in the case of Manitou Springs, we are seeing the free market show interest in electric charging stations. We have people saying, if I drive down to Manitou and spend the day, can I charge? Or, what are your charging capabilities? So we're seeing that. We've got 2 stations. They're getting increased use. We know that this is something we have to address. I think we feel that Highway 24 is something of a electric vehicle desert. So it's coming up. There is, economic pressure to do that. It should really be the mission of, I think, the private sector to install charging stations. We really only have one situation now where that might be feasible, where there's actually a business who has parking and they're expanding their parking lot so they could put in charging stations. That would make sense for most of Manitou, and particularly downtown, small businesses. So this kind of falls to the city. We know we're going to have to do something. This study, I think, is helpful in guiding us. We won't do anything in a big way because our funds are limited, but we'll probably try some experimentation. I think we do feel like we want to move in the direction, but it's going to be, I'd say, somewhat cautious. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion on the floor? Mayor Gardine.
I second the motion. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, is there any for comments online? Not seeing any hands up. Okay, seeing no further comments or discussion. If you're in support of passing the plan, please say aye or yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no or nay. All right, the plan passes. Thank you, Danelle. Congratulations. All right, that takes us on.
And just point of clarification, study,
Yes.
not plan.
Study. I'm sorry. Did I say plan? Okay, thank you. Study. Okay, thank you for correcting that. Thank you. All right. All right. Item B, Unified Planning Work Program Amendment Number 2, Public Comment Period. Danelle again.
Yes, this is another one. We recently adopted Amendment 1 to the UPWP. That was a mid-cycle update that was planned. However, we have had some discussions with CDOT and others, FHWA, the Federal Highways Administration. And we really felt like an additional amendment was needed. The full document is in your packet. The highlights indicate changes that were made to the document. Hopefully that made it a little bit easier to read this round. But essentially there's a couple of different boxes that these changes fall into. First are some new requirements. So the Federal Highways Administration has some new planning emphasis areas. So they really wanted to see some text about how PPACG was going to include these planning emphasis areas in our process, or how we already included them. So we did add a little bit of text about that. Also, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act requires us as the Metropolitan Planning Organization to set aside 2.5% of our consolidated planning grant to dedicate to a complete streets planning effort. And that consolidated planning grant is the money that is given to our MPO, basically our transportation group here at PPACG, from the Federal Transit Administration and the Federal Highways Administration. So we did document that in this amendment. In addition, PPACG has been working with CDOT to be allowed to use some toll credits for some projects. These projects are a regional freight study for the area, which we believe has never been done. An active transportation plan, that's a bicycle pedestrian plan. We would also do a land use planning update related to the long-range transportation plan, and also a public outreach effort related to the long-range transportation plan. The LRTP is a 5-year it's on a 5-year cycle. We're starting that back up. So we're aiming to adopt that document in early 2025. And by utilizing toll credits for those projects, we're able to accomplish them without using any local dues. So that's a really wonderful thing that we're able to hopefully work out with CDOT. And then finally, we were asked, and you'll hear a little bit more about this from John when he does the resolution for the next item. But we were asked by our Transportation Advisory Committee to utilize some surface transportation block grant funding to purchase a traffic data service for the region. So I believe Andy sent out a memo on the toll credits, but also on the surface transportation block grant funding. That's funding that is federal funding that comes through PPACG to be administered to projects throughout the region. And that needs to be included in our UPWP. But as I said, John will go into a little bit more detail regarding that for the next agenda item. And those are really the buckets that the changes in this amendment fall into. Today, what we're hoping to do is get permission to release this document to the public for public comment period, which will last for 30 days. And then we'll, of course, implement any comments and bring it back for adoption. Does anybody have any questions, comments at this time?
Okay, seeing none, what would everybody like to do?
I move approval of the UPWP Amendment number 2 to release for public comment.
Mayor Dixon, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say nay. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we're on to item 6C, resolution for the procurement of traffic data service. Mr. Liazatos.
Is my dad here?
All right.
Just John. Mr. Liazatos is my dad. Madam Chair, members of the Board of Directors, this item
by way of a little bit of background, last year, PPACG partnered with El Paso County and Colorado Springs to purchase traffic data. And basically, traffic data nowadays is what they do is they grab the Bluetooth information from the phones as they're moving around town. They scrub out all the personal information, or at least that's what they'd have us believe. But in theory, they scrub out all the personal information and they use this big data to figure out how things are moving around and help us with real-time traffic data and congestion numbers. So last year, again, a large contribution was made by El Paso County, Colorado Springs, and Pikes at PPACG. We kicked in $30,000 from our UPWP under the data acquisition item to purchase the data. This data, when you purchase it, is only good for 1 year. So flash forward now to our existing TIP programming cycle, where we're just figuring out what we're going to do with our upcoming money. In moving into 2023, the question was asked, well, instead of having El Paso County and Colorado Springs kick in so much money, why don't we regionalize this more and move it from sort of an administrative thing over into the actual project that is programmed within the TIP, and we use our surface transportation dollars for. We checked with the feds, we checked with the state. Everybody was fine with doing it. In fact, they were so fine with doing it, we were told, you don't actually need to put this in your TIP. You don't need to do a TIP amendment. You could just do it. Now, me being a career bureaucrat was very uncomfortable with speaking for any of the money without your approval. So if I can't do a TIP amendment, if I can't bring you a TIP amendment, there has to be some vehicle by which you all get to make that financial decision. So even though we were told this was not necessary, again, I want to make sure we're being transparent, we're not hiding anything, and that we're making a purchase of $290,000. That this $290,000 purchase is upfront and transparent, and you're all okay with that. So what we did is we said, let's put a resolution on saying, you, the board, say you're good with us taking $290,000 off the top of our surface transportation money and buying the traffic data with it moving forward. Does it have to be a resolution? Probably not. But again, as a career bureaucrat, that's the vehicle I thought of. Again, I just want to make sure that there was something that came to the board and that you had the proper discussion. Now, as far as the data itself, again, it's used heavily by the jurisdictions to do their traffic signal timing, because it gives them that real-time congestion data. It's helpful for planning, and by it being regionalized, because quite frankly, I believe El Paso County would buy it by themselves. I believe Colorado Springs would buy it by themselves. They both would be spending more money than they need to. Plus, without it being regionalized, the data would not be available for our other jurisdictions. So this is a true sort of win-win-win proposition where everyone has availability of that data. Now, I'm not an engineer, so hopefully we have, like, I see we've got Planner Extraordinaire Victoria is on the line. We do have an engineer in Gale. So if there's questions about the data itself and what it's used for, I think these are the folks that can help answer that. But as far as the process, why we're moving forward with it, why a resolution, I'm happy to answer any questions. And so with that,
Councilmember Avila.
Thank you. I just have a question. Is this annually? Did you say, is it 290,000 annual?
It's an annual purchase. That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, thank you. So for region, are we talking the 3-county area or just the MPO or what?
I believe it is the 3-county region, right? Danelle, we get Park, Teller, and all of El Paso County. I know it's all of is Will on the line or?
Yeah, I'm here. It is for the 3-county region.
Thank you.
I got that one right.
Mayor Dixon.
Yeah, my question would be with the reliability of the data, if you're basing it on Bluetooth out of cell phones and not everyone's got their Bluetooth turned on, how comfortable do you have like a 80-90% confidence factor in the data?
I'll let Will answer this question, but it's all tossed into an algorithm. So when he answers this question, it's based on our confidence levels based on the area, right? So if you've got a major roadway like I-25 or Woodland Park, I think the algorithm is pretty spot on and they have the ability to double check that. If we go out into a little neighborhood out in the sticks where, again, where there's only 10 cars to begin with, right? If you're off by a little bit, all of a sudden you're 25% off. So I think it varies with the density of the traffic and the amount of big data that they have available. But Will, is there a much better answer than that?
John, you pretty much got it in a nutshell. I mean, it does vary according to population density and the average traffic load, but it's important to remember that the data is calibrated and validated against static traffic counts. It's also not entirely just Bluetooth. They're pulling the data from a variety of sources, and then it's interpolated against population figures as well for the region. But like John said, when you look at something like the interstate, your R-squared value is somewhere around like 0.98. So you figure you've got about 98% of the data captured. When you're on your principal arterials, it's similar. It's when you get out into the rural areas that you'll find that the estimated traffic count through these services tends to not be quite as aligned with if we were to do a static count in those areas.
Okay. All right. Well, to me, regionalizing something like this is what our name is about, regional government. So the more we can work together and share the costs and the data, rather than everybody having to purchase their own individual.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. All right. So are there any further questions or discussion? Commissioner Stone?
Just a request, probably already in the works also, but just want to make sure, since it's being regionalized now, assuming that it passes, is that the information gets sent out to Park counties and Teller County and all the municipalities within there, that this data is now available through PPACG rather than individually as it was prior.
I think we can do that. Will, I'm not making any promises you can't keep, right?
No, I mean, the word's kind of already been put out there to all the planners. And what we'll simply do is anybody that was interested, we provide them an account through Streetlight, because that's currently who's contracted. And then once this is done, we'll see who ends up, responding to the RFP and what service we end up contracting with in the future. But it's not that PPACG is necessarily like a gatekeeper on this data. Instead, we're simply helping the consultant, whoever is hired, facilitate all of our member governments and assigning them their own logins, their own IDs, so they can run their own analysis and pull the data on their own for whatever projects they want. And when we talk about traffic counts, most of the work that's been done, when you look at the people that have run it a lot, like Fountain, Manitou, the Springs, most of it, they're not after the traffic counts. What they're looking for is traffic patterns. And that's where these kind of services really shine, is to be able to find an area and say how many people are coming from outside our region to go visit this attraction or to visit this town, or during rush hour traffic, where do the commuter patterns really look like? And that's the information that most people are going to be able to pull.
Okay, Commissioner Williams.
I move approval of the resolution for the procurement of traffic data service.
Okay.
I'll second John Graham.
All right, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any further discussion? Commissioner Stone, your light's on.
I'm just ready to vote.
Oh, okay. All right, all in favor, say aye or yes, please.
Aye.
All opposed, nay or no? All right, seeing none, motion passes. Thank you. All right, item D, congestion management process public comment period. John.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this, like so many other things, is part of the process. So for the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO area, that urbanized area, we are required to do a long-range plan and a transportation improvement program. Basically, a long-range plan is all the projects over a 20 to 25-year period or longer. And the tip is sort of a capital improvement project of what we're going to purchase with our federal dollars within that MPO area. And again, not all of the members of the Council of Governments or the board are also members of the MPO. So we're just talking the MPO area here, which is sort of the big urbanized area with the little saguaro arm up to Woodland Park. Part of that process, we are required through federal regulation to have what's known as a congestion management process. I am old enough to remember when it was called a congestion management plan. But what happened was they would do a plan and then never sort of go back to it. So the feds say, no, we want to make sure this is embedded in everything you do. So we're required to have a congestion management process. And it's a process because it's embedded within our long range plan process. It's embedded within our TIP process. It's basically embedded in everything we do. And in a nutshell, what the requirement is the feds want to make sure that when we have an issue or a point of congestion that we need to address as a region, that we just don't automatically start throwing asphalt at it and money, that we actually take a step back and we review other options. Are there other options where we could address this congestion by, say, improving alternate routes, by doing some sort of travel reduction program, improving transit, a bus line, some other sort of thing like that. So here's the key. We're required to review those options, but we're not required to actually take those options as it is. And so I want to stress that the congestion mitigation process that we have in front of you, we have our consultant, Ted Richard. Say hi to the nice people, Ted. That we're doing this sort of on a shoestring budget. So we've retained Ted on sort of an hourly basis, but a lot of the work's being done in-house based on other plans that have been adopted by NPOs across the United States. And so our intent is to put something in place that meets all the federal requirements, makes us compliant with the feds, but however, is not prescriptive in any way, and just provides more information into the process so you, the decision makers, can decide what you want to do. It is not intended to sort of build a black box by which we put projects in, and when projects come out, we just have to go down the line and take the projects. No, it's intended to inform the process. And then after we get the list of projects, we still have the ability to apply engineering knowledge or professional expertise, I guess is the best term, as well as jurisdictional equity. So that's what's in front of you today is the CMP. We've worked hard with our jurisdictions. We've worked hard with our consultant to put this together. It would like to have your approval to send it out for public comment so that people can tell us what they think. And then when we get all those public comments, just like Danelle was saying before, we'll take those and we'll integrate them. We'll take them back to the TAC and make sure folks like Victoria and Gail and Brian Vituli can all live with the sort of things that are there and the process makes sense to them. Then we'll take it back to you all. I think time-wise, we can bring it back one more time for information and then again for adoption. Is that correct? We can, or if you just love it so much and you want to adopt it right off the bat, you could certainly do that. But there is not a time crunch per se, right? There's not you have to have your CMP done by this deadline or else the feds are going to I don't know, throw a rock through your window or whatever. Too soon? So we're under no time constraint there. But that being said, we do want to have the CMP done before we really get started on the long range plan in earnest, because the sort of the criteria that are in there, or criterion, I guess that's the use of a big word, for the project selection goes into our long range planning process. So the sooner we do it, the better, but it's certainly not a requirement. And there's no need to rush anybody if you guys aren't comfortable with any part of this. So with that, I'll open up to questions, but we are looking to be able to release it to the public.
Okay, do we have any questions or discussion on releasing this? Commissioner Stone.
I would just move to approve the item and move the CMP to the 30-day public comment process.
I would second that, John Graham.
Here we have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I only have one comment. If we see a typo, who do we send it to?
Danelle.
Okay, all right, because Briargate Parkway doesn't intersect with Academy. So it's just a typo. Thank you.
Okay.
There's like 20 Briar Gates. How do you ever know?
Mayor Dixon.
Well, I would speak to your city council members about why we allow roads to be named Briargate Boulevard and then a road a half mile away, Briargate Parkway.
Literally the first 5 months I was here, I was constantly getting lost because I never realized there was 5 different Briar Gates. And then once I figured that out, it was, yeah.
All right, don't get started on all the road names around here.
Sorry.
Okay, Mayor Dixon.
Yeah, it seems like we're getting a lot of plans and a lot of data. Do we have an overall integration plan on how all these fit together and how you intend to use it?
If I understand the question correctly, all of these things that we're doing now, and actually, if you're tired of seeing me now, just give me about a year, because we're going to have all of these things coming back to you, and these are all components of the overall long range plan. So the overall long range plan is basically the umbrella plan for the region. Under that, we'll have the specialized human services plan and the long range transit plan. I see Brian Vituli on the line, so we're working with MMT on sort of getting those going here in the next I don't want to say a couple of months, but in the very near future, so that we reach that deadline that Danelle was talking about, December of 2024 and 2025. But along with that, with this active transportation plan that was mentioned during the UPWP, the freight plan, all these other things are things that we need to be doing. But ultimately, they'll culminate and then be part of this whole long range plan. So yes, we all tie it together. But sometimes the part that gets tied together is that moves on. But there's other parts that are part of the process and are part of the building blocks, but don't necessarily move on to the bigger picture. So I think I've answered your question, but I don't want to promise in any way that if I talk about something today, you're going to see it again in 2 years. Sometimes we talk about it just so we can get to the next step, but sometimes it gets moved forward. Hopefully that answered the question.
All right, are there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we have a motion. I believe we have a motion and a second on the floor, right? Okay, all right. So all in favor say aye or yes. Aye. All opposed, nay or no? Okay, seeing none, congratulations. All right, that takes them on to item E, administrative service contract between PPACG and PPRTA. Mr. Gunning.
Rick handled this.
Okay,
one.
Rick Sonnenberg. Welcome, Rick.
Good morning, Madam Chair, board members. I'm Rick Sonnenberg, Pikes RTA Program and Contracts Manager. As you'll recall, the PPRTA was voter approved in November of 2004. And at the time, the PPACG board and the PPRTA board decided that PPACG should provide the administrative services for the PPRTA program. And there was an initial administrative services contract between the two boards, multiple extensions. Now we're completing our 18th year of the PPRTA. The most recent contract between the two boards was a 4-year contract that expires December 31 of this year. And PPACG staff is requesting from both boards, of course, the PPACG this morning and PPRTA this afternoon, a 4-year contract extension so that PPACG can continue to offer the administrative services to the PPRTA board. So that's the requested motion, is that the PPACG board approve a 4-year contract extension, calendars 23 through 26. Are there any questions?
Mayor Pro Tem Gardine.
I make this motion to extend this.
I will second it because it's operated so incredibly efficiently. Thank you.
Right. Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we have any discussion or comments?
And I believe you said that Pikes Peak RTA pays fully for yourself. Right?
Yes,
Okay, so this money comes out of the Pikes Peak RTA sales tax that is collected. And then if anyone is around in 2026, I probably still will be, I hope. Then that would be when, if this ballot issue does not pass this fall, we would have to consider how we're going to start cutting that back a little. But that's for 4 years from now.
certainly.
All right. And just a little clarification for people that may be new. This is a separate board, operates completely on its own. Use our building, use some of the administrative services. But we in no way oversight that board or anything like that, that their own separate entity. We just are intermingled. It's one little way.
That's correct. It's a separate public agency with 6 member jurisdictions. And to Commissioner Williams's comment, a great relationship, and PPRTA pays full direct and indirect expenses of Rick's time, our PPRTA finance manager's time, and my little bit of time that I spend on PPRTAs. It's a very good arrangement and cost saving measure to be able to support that other entity.
Right.
It's
So
a- it's a
RTA issues,
win-win.
call Rick.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right. So if all in favor say yes or aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay or no. Okay, seeing none, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, that leads us on to item F, draft FY 2023 budget, and I don't have a name by it.
Oh, sorry. Carol McBroom, our finance manager, is going to
Okay.
handle this.
Good morning, Carol McBroom, Finance Manager, PPACG. So I'm here to present the fiscal year 2023 budget, draft budget. So in your package, you received a memo describing the budget. You received the details of each line item of revenue and expenses. And then the third sheet is the actual draft budget that we are proposing. And so I'd just like to go over some of the major highlights of the budget for this year. Let's start with the revenues. And our revenues have decreased from fiscal year 2022 by 1.9 million. And that is due to the cutbacks of the COVID pandemic emergency funding. The dues remained the same from fiscal year 2022. We remained stable at full-time employees at 39. And the fiscal year 2023 budget does include a proposed 6% wage package increase. And we were asked to put together some comparisons with that. So at 6%, that would calculate a little over 122,000 over fiscal year 2022 budget. We were asked to look at 5.3, and that would increase the budget over close to 100,000. And we were asked to look at a 7% increase, and that would increase the budget over 155,000. And then I make some notes on the city of Colorado Springs and El Paso County. They've come out on their budget, and it is basically in line with what we talked about last month. Other than that, there's no other major changes in the budget. And so today I'm looking for either approval of the draft budget to finalize for approval next month, or I'm looking for any adjustments to the budget that I will come back next month with the adjustments that you recommend. So are there any questions?
Question, how many personnel are employed by PPACG?
So currently on staff right now, we have 33. We budgeted for 39.
Okay, thank you.
So included in this proposed budget is the 6% wage package increase, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
If I can mention on that, Madam Chair, we talked about this a little bit at the workshop and in previous budget cycles. All of our salary package proposal is tied to merit and evaluation, our evaluation process. It's all merit based. We don't do a cost of living plus a merit increase. So that's just something we've been consistently doing for a number of years now, right, Barb? So it would be tied to our end of the year evaluations that we do for all employees at the same time.
Okay, great. And then can you explain to me NADTC?
That I will take a stab at that. National Aging Disability Transportation. I'm not coming up with the C. Laura, are you online?
I am.
Go ahead.
It's National Aging and Disability Transportation Center. So they are actually a joint center between U.S. Aging and Easter Seals.
And what can their funding be used for?
So we have actually currently been using their funding. We received a grant this past year or this year to conduct a needs assessment for specialized transportation in El Paso County. And I talked a little bit about this in our board workshop a few weeks ago. We have also received a second package of funding from them to do an implementation implementation project that aligns with the needs that have been identified through the assessment. And our proposal was accepted, and actually Andy was working on our contract with them for the second package of $70,000 that we'll be accessing for an implementation project over the next between October 15th and June 30th of next year. That implementation project includes more outreach about transportation options in this region, because one of the major needs that was identified was people just didn't know what options were available to them and the ins and outs and nuances of those options. The second is actually a pilot program that we'll be working with NVIDIA on. Another major finding that came out of the assessment was the need for on-demand transportation. And, for those last minute trips that folks have and going to doctor's appointments, or just even things for recreation and socialization. And so we're partnering with NVIDIA to roll out a small pilot, a test pilot on how we may be able to mobilize specialized transportation providers to provide more on-demand services to those that need it. So that is the synopsis of the two grants, the one grant that we've already received, and now a second grant for implementation.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, Commissioner Graham. Stone.
I was looking around for Commissioner Graham. I was like, who's that? I haven't met that person yet.
I gave you a little promotion over there. I hope there's a salary increase that comes with it.
So for me, this discussion will go a little different than last year's discussion. For those who were here last year, remember when we looked at wage increases for PPACG employees, there was a lot of discussion at that time because we hadn't gone through our own budget processes that much about whether it was appropriate to give raises in at what at the time was a fairly high level. We then approved, and actually, remember Andy, said, "Don't pay me, pay my people," and I appreciate the fact that he did that. Then that's a true leader. That being said, the situation we're sitting in today is much different than the situation we were sitting in last year. In Teller County, the bastion of conservatism and squeezing a quarter and getting 3 dimes, we did salary adjustments. There were some people in our organization that received market adjustments up to 29% of what of their wage to make them market competitive. Dispatchers, once we went out there and did a study, we took them from 35,000 to 49,000. Detention officers, similarly, our road and bridge, all of these. Now, each of these were specific to what they were. But that being said, I am very cognizant of the fact that we are sitting at 15%. The cost of living increases in Colorado compared to the roughly 9 to 10% national. It's a very difficult environment for employees of PPACG, much less the employees of all of our organizations. Last year, and I don't recall if this is exactly right, Andy, but I think we had maybe a couple of open positions at a similar amount of time. Now we're sitting at budgeted at 39 with 33 currently in the organization. I don't know if that's because of the competitiveness of the wages, of the shortage of work, of labor, what those specific things are. I do know a significant part of our budget, as we discussed last year, comes from grant funds. And just as last year, I questioned whether or not the level of raise we were talking about was appropriate on the one side on the conservative side, as to whether or not this year we're looking at it. I'm looking at it possibly on the other side. We did a, I don't want to say small, but we did a modest raise last year. I think it ended up being around 5%.
5.4.
5.4.
Yeah, 5.4. We're proposing 6 this year. I got to be honest, I think the 5.4 are people, we obviously they were behind the 8 ball when it came to even trying to keep up with cost of living. And that wasn't intentional by anybody on the board. I think none of us saw really how big this inflation tsunami is. And I really don't see that easing up. I see no signals whatsoever to say that anything's going to get any better. It looks like gas prices are going to get worse again before they get better. And so I guess my question, as we're looking at, this is a proposal, not the passing of the budget, is to, whether, and I want to say, quote, making up for last year. That's not what I'm talking about. It's just that when it comes to employees, when it comes to recruitment and retention, I would expect that probably some other organizations, I don't know if you did things as drastically or as surgically as we did in Teller County, where some got 7 to 9%. I don't think in Teller County anybody got less than 11% this last, this current budget that we're in, when it came to merit plus our market adjustments. Some got as much as 29% because we made major shifts to what their job description and qualification was. But I'm not making a motion to a specific number, but I want to broach the subject because I'm not above looking back to what we did last year and saying, you know what, we may have gotten it a little wrong. And again, I'm a very much a, again, squeeze a quarter, get 3 dimes. That being said, the situation has changed. So
I'm just going to read the numbers again. 5.3% would be roughly $98,000. 6%, which is what is being proposed, is roughly $121,000. And then 7% is 154.649. And we can handle the 7% in our.
Yes,
finances.
you asked me this question on Friday, and so
I know.
I did some more
7.
research.
Right,
And
right.
so really from the 6% to the 7% difference is 33,000 that we would spread across all of our departments. And we, when we budget, we put we overestimate a lot of items, including benefits. So when I budget, I assume that everybody that will be going through open enrollment coming up is going to take benefits. That is not the case. So we are currently well over budgeted on wages and benefits and can easily be absorbed by the increase. That was my question.
Oh, okay. Councilmember Donaldson.
I would just ask for a recommendation from the executive director, Mr. Gunning.
I appreciate the question and the comments and the corollary with last year's situation. And we could definitely put our heads together, make sure we understand where the 7% proposal, how that would hit our grants versus local dues. Just generally 80 to 90% of our personnel expenses are going to be charged back to our grants, and we have enough grant capacity, we're pretty sure, to certainly be able to absorb 7%. We didn't look at anything higher than that at this point. We've been checking in with the city and the county counterparts, especially to find out what they're doing as far as COLA plus merit increases. And I think actually if we were around 7%, that's probably a little bit closer to what we're hearing from our 2 major entities. We're looking for additional feedback from other jurisdictions if they have other numbers that they want to share. Interesting to hear the Teller County scenario. And it's been a tough market out there. We really lucked out. We just, as we introduced an hour or so ago, 3 great new employees. and everybody's got to be able to pay the bills, but they also appreciate the mission that we have and some of the things we put in place as far as working from home and some other flexibility. So that all helps as well. But we're always concerned about that, especially in this really tough market. We've got, as we mentioned earlier, 39 FTEs total, and at about 33 or 34 actual filled positions, feels like it's about the right number that we'll have throughout the year. We're going to have a couple of vacancies. We have one that we're trying to recruit for right now in transportation, but once that's filled, we're probably good for a while. I think some of the other FTEs are some intern positions and some other proposed positions within the AAA that once Jody and I have a chance to really chart out what the needs are there, that we'll move forward with those additional positions because we have some additional needs that are popping up in the AAA. So long way of saying, easily, I think we can absorb the 7% and we could dig into that a little bit further. But if you have further directions, suggestions, we're happy to do some additional research there as well.
Would anybody like them to bring anything back higher than 7%?
Well, again, I think that maybe the best way to do this is have the executive director tell us what he thinks he needs to retain his staff and run his organization, and then we vote on his recommendations. But I could certainly support what Mr. Gunning has spoken about today.
Mayor Gardine.
Okay, with us men, we had quite a bit of increase on our health insurance for our employees and stuff. Okay, and which was significant. And then I think then 7% is more realistic than the 6%.
Well, I would personally like to see you bring back, in addition to the 7%, let's bring back 8 and 9 and just see what they look like. Not saying we would do it. I would just like to see what the numbers look like. So.
Okay, that makes a whole lot of sense. And we actually would have to rerun, and it's not a heroic task, but rerun the budget numbers overall. So you've got the budget sheet in front of you that shows what our budget would look like at 7%, 8%, 9%, and then basically choosing one of those when you do budget adoption next month. Yes.
Okay. Okay, so do you need a motion on this? It is under action items to approve the draft?
We
or-
put it under action in the event that you were ready to approve today, but the approval would have been at the 6% budget spreadsheet that we presented. So
do you need a
don't
motion
need
to postpone it, bring it back? What is?
I think we have a clear enough direction. I don't think we need a motion necessarily. We're going to go back
Okay.
and come up with 3 different scenarios at those 3 different levels and present those next month.
And then we will need to vote on it next month for sure.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Stone.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I would support seeing a broader range and what that does overall, so maybe up to the 9% that the chairman suggested, I think would be appropriate to consider.
You can't know if you don't look at it and see how it would affect it and what it would do and that kind of stuff. So, okay, thank you. I agree. You have a lot of real specialized positions that you're trying to hire for. So, all right, that takes us out of the action items and on to item 7, information item, evaluation of the executive director. And I believe that is Barb Watson.
Good morning again, Barb Watson, HR Manager for PPACG. Excuse me. In your board packet was a memorandum outlining the start of the evaluation process or the continuation of the evaluation process for Andy. In addition, there was an evaluation form. After the board meeting, I will be sending out an email to all board members with an electronic version to facilitate ease of completing that and returning it to me. I'm asking that the evaluation form be returned to me by October 28th so that I have time to put together the results and so that we can have a timely and a informative evaluation process. There has been discussion that the next board meeting will be held in Park County. And if that happens, I will not be having the executive session in Park County. I will pick an alternative date to have a Zoom meeting so that we can facilitate the evaluation. The date and the details to be determined.
Okay. All right.
Any questions?
Super important we get this done. The more please just take 5 minutes and do it. Even if you haven't been on the board that long, there's got to be at least one question or one comment you can have in there, right? So there's been years where it's been really sad. We've had as few as 7 people participate. So let's just get it done this year.
Yes,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you. All right. And if you need assistance, they can call you, which is what they had to do last year. I had my right arm was broken. So they actually called me and did it over the phone.
Yes, I will provide any assistance I need to. And
Right.
And my number will be in the email. So either email me or call me.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. That takes us on to item 8, other reports and minutes. Most of the minutes are included in the presentation. For let's see, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Look at that. We're just flying through this one, huh? All right. That takes us on to CDOT monthly update, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Richard Zamora with CDOT, Region 2 Director. I don't have a lot for you this month, just a couple of announcements. Something we've been talking about for about I'd say over 12 months was our 10-year plan updates. I'm pleased to announce that the Transportation Commission actually formally adopted the updated 10-year plan at their meeting last month in September. So we are official now in terms of having an updated 10-year plan. So it's exciting news and moving forward with that. And the only other item I have for you today is in terms of the greenhouse gas rules. It's another item we've been working on for, almost a year now. And so the 2 MPOs that were most immediately affected by those greenhouse gas rules, as well as CDOT, presented their reports and their ability to comply with the greenhouse gas rules. And I'm pleased to report that both North Front Range, DRCOG, and including CDOT on our statewide plan, excluding the MPOs, were able to show compliance with the approved greenhouse gas rules. So it's good news. The Transportation Commission accepted those reports at their meeting in September as well. And so with your permission, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Shane Ferguson to give some project updates as well for the regions.
All right. Hey, good morning. Shane Ferguson, North Program Engineer for CDOT here in Region 2. A couple of updates to go through on construction and active design projects. The US 285 bridge replacement project in Park County. We are paving the bridge today as well as yesterday and maybe a little bit tomorrow. We're planning to open that bridge and that corridor back up probably late next week, if not next weekend. So good news for getting that one completed early on time. The MAMSIP project, we are going to be setting girders tonight, 8 of them. That's 8 out of 28 girders total that will be set for that bridge. The remaining 20 will be done later next year in the spring. So this is really kind of a portion of the bridge that's being constructed starting tonight, at least the deck area and the superstructure area. That portion will be utilized for traffic control and shifting of traffic later as we move the southbound and northbound traffic to the new alignments. The concrete paving on that southbound direction is about 85 to 90% complete. We will have that completed here within the next couple of months or next month or so, with the plan to shift all that traffic. Be a couple of different shifts at the time, but ultimately shift all that traffic from the northbound side of the highway of I-25 over to the southbound new pavement later in the winter. Charter Oaks Ranch Road and State Highway 94 projects are planned to be complete this fall. Progressed well. The State Highway 115 project is in early stages of the project, working on the foundations for the new bridge at Rock Creek, as well as earthwork, widening and abatement along that corridor. We held the ribbon cutting for the Research and Powers interchange project on the 29th, so definitely appreciate all that was able to attend that project. The US 24 surface treatment project as planned or is currently under advertisement now for the contractors to review and bid on. That project is surface treatment from Chipeta Park up and through Woodland Park, possibly through Divide or up to the Divide. That project's advertisement and bid opening will be late in October. And then the US 285 and 9 project, both of these projects were advertised last spring, and we had to do a re-advertisement this fall for the construction projects. The US 285 and 9 project will be advertised that first week of November, with bids opening the first week of December. And then the last update I'll provide is the I-25 Fillmore to the Garden Gods design project. It's on track to be ready for advertisement. I'd say this winter, I'd say January, February. Still had some funding challenges with that one, but we will have it ready for advertisement as long as we can continue to chase down some additional funds for the project. With that, I will open it up for questions.
Do you have any questions or comments? I just have one real quick comment. I heard that the Mesa Ridge signals are all being supposedly redone this week. Is that still on track to be done? Because we've got a lot of people frustrated that they go to Dutch Brothers for coffee and they can't get out.
Okay. I am not aware of the retiming of those signals, but I can look into that for you, Mayor.
Okay. Yeah, it gets like 1 or 2 cars through it, and people are like, I'm not going for coffee anymore because I can't get to work on time. So, all right. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to item I, Statewide Transportation Advisory Committee update. I assume that's Commissioner Williams.
Yes, so we had our meeting. I think that so far Rich has summarized the important stuff and Shane very well. And but they did offer, and I do apologize. I left my notebook at home and I don't do too well on a cell phone. They did talk about some innovation grants up front, and they were only going to offer those to counties and cities. And so knowing that both the county and city are frequently at their Tabor revenue limitations, we asked them to also offer those to area council of governments too. I don't know I hope they got that message from me. I was fairly blunt about it. But that would give us the ability. One of the innovative ideas were machines that communicate with the cars on roads where you can real time find out when something changes to ice. Anyone going up to Woodland Park or anyone going up Monument Hill knows how fast that happens, because it just changes to ice within minutes. And so that was a particular opportunity that we could have to apply for 10. We could partner with CDOT for free machines. And so the word free was really awesome to me. So if that comes at a cost though within our Tabor capacity, we would have to look at that. So that was one presentation. The other presentation we had, there was a highway users tax fund presentation on how those numbers are figured out. And I do have the notes on that. I can send those to John. We should probably send those out. And that was fairly interesting. If you wanted to have CDOT present on that at the same time they're presenting when they come here to the meeting to present to us, that would probably be fairly interesting. If anyone has any interest in how highway user tax funds come to you. And then the final one, which I found interesting, was the Public Highway Authority. It was long, and how they use, not the Public Highway Authority, but how they use express tolls and the High Performance Transportation Enterprise, which they gave a whole new acronym to. Right, John?
Yeah, don't ask me what.
We're so used to calling it the HPTE, which do involve the toll credits. And but my only concern on that presentation, first of all, it was rather long, but they want to move away from using the E470 Public Highway Authority to having their own government in-house agency to collect HPTE revenues. And that to me might have been something that would be an expansion of government as opposed to using something that is already existing. But that presentation was fairly long and specialized for just those of us who have to deal with toll roads. So, but that, those were the interesting presentations, and we'll be sending out minutes, and I'll send out the Highway User Tax Fund and the grants as well, because the innovation grants were rather interesting.
Thank you. There was a letter, I think it was in the Gazette, about if someone has a vehicle that only has 2 seats with 2 seat belts and the tolling says 3, can they not use it?
I would have to verify that with, I think it's our HPT, or I think it's CTIO now, I think is the name of the group.
There you go. Thank you.
And I can't remember what it stands for, so don't ask me.
Okay.
But yeah, I would have to verify that with Nick Farber and see how that would potentially work. So I'm assuming the reference is to, like when a true sports car, the 2-seater type thing, or a roadster, some of those kinds of things. I'll have to raise that with him and get back to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Because he was like, I've hassled all this and now I can't use it.
I mean, they would be able to use it. Now, the question is, would they be able to use it for free? I mean, that's the thing, is HOV3 is typically would be free, but you would be able to do it for a toll potentially. So,
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there might be an exception to, I know when I get my tolling sticker from E470 and there might be a way that they could make that exception and program it into a sticker on the window.
yeah, I don't know. I know motorcycles, I think they're typically free as well in the lane. So,
Yeah, I
Okay.
hope there's not 3 on them. Okay. All right. Item J, the executive director's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple items I'd like to bring up and brief you on. One is I'll send out a note to the board here in the next week or so about interest in serving on our executive committee for 2023. It's about that time of year where at your meeting next month, you'll actually set up a nominating committee to recommend a slate for the 2023 officers. You have 5 officers on the board: chair, first vice chair, second vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. So now is the time to find out who wants to throw their hat in the ring for consideration for next year. So I'll follow up with an email in the next week or so. So if you can let me know if you're interested in serving, that would be super. Second item is we're also at that time of year where we start our regional annual award process, Communities Working Together award that we started a couple of years ago. So I'll be working with Jared and others to push the word out through social media and on our website for folks to be able to nominate individuals across the region that really exemplify communities working together and working across jurisdictional boundaries, especially within the mission that we have at PPACG. Ideally, what we'll do is we'll set up a selection committee of the board at November's meeting as well. Just need 2 or 3 volunteers to be able to review applications, and then we'll do the actual award at the meeting in December. Okay, so more to come on that. I don't know if Mayor Dixon, not to put you on the spot, but you asked me about, and I put this request out to our town and city managers as well about CIRSA insurance, risk insurance versus private insurance. Not sure if you want to maybe say a few words about that. And
Yeah, periodically, we just kind of want to take a look to make sure that we're getting a reasonable deal from CIRSA. And I didn't know if anyone had actually done a cost comparison between CIRSA and private. And if you had, I was going to see if I could get a copy of it.
Yeah.
That'd be a city manager question.
I put it out to the city managers and haven't heard back as far as anybody that's done a cost comparison. I will rattle the cage again and see if anybody responds back, but we just wanted to see if anybody around the table has done that as well. So,
Okay, thank you.
sure. And last thing I've got, we talked a little bit about this already, but it looks like there's sufficient interest in holding the board meeting in November up in Park County. So we're pretty excited about that. Appreciate Commissioner Elsner making that available. So the meeting would be November 9th. We would arrange to coordinate carpools and appreciate CDOT helping us out again with the van. We'd probably have to leave fairly early from here, guessing 7:15, since it's about an hour and 30 minutes up to Fairplay. But yeah, we're excited about the opportunity. Obviously, a Zoom option will be available too, and probably one of our conference rooms, maybe the one upstairs for folks that want to come here and Zoom in for the meeting. That would be fine as well. But yeah, just passing along the interest by our chair, Commissioner Vanderwerf. He's very interested in convening the meeting from up there. So yeah, really excited about the opportunity.
and I was just going to ask if, at some point, as we get closer to the meeting, make sure we have a good head count for who's going to be riding in the CDOT vehicle.
Yes.
So we can make sure we have adequate space and those kind of things. So
Perfect. We'll do. So we'll push some information out on that here in the coming weeks. Yes.
Is there a snow alternative just in case?
That's a good question. And yeah,
Well,
as
if
we
it
get a little
snows,
bit-
we make Dick drive down here and we don't go up there.
Right. And
Yeah.
like, when would the decision be made? People don't want it made at 5:30 in the morning, right? So, yeah.
I've thought about that, but I don't have a good answer.
Okay.
But I will start looking at the forecast when we get into that 10-day forecast window,
Yeah.
that 7 days and so forth. And if it looks like there's something sketchy that might happen, then we'll quickly pivot for a plan B, which would be just defaulting back here. We'd have to repost the agenda and the location at least 24 hours before the meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
So we wouldn't have to make the call at say 5:30 in the morning, the day of, and say, hey, it's off. So
Right.
we'll take that into
Yeah.
consideration too.
Okay. Is that it?
That is it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Any member entity announcements?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Because people are so zealous about the grant writers, they protect them so much, you can't get them. We were pursuing that. Where are we at?
I appreciate the question. I think we're finally making progress. It's been very, very slow. It's the program where the state through OEDIT and the governor's office is pushing out money to the COGs across the state, 14 of us, to be able to hire grant navigators, grant writers to help our local communities to go after federal grants. And we just got notice, I think it was yesterday, to fill out the paperwork to do the fund transfer of getting the money from the state down to our account. So we can now start the hiring and RFP process. What I'd like to do is hire a contractor and not an employee necessarily. I think a contractor would probably work out a little bit better for us. So we're incrementally getting closer. So my hope is that we've got something on the street, an RFP, RFQ within the next couple of weeks. Although I know we also have another coordination meeting with the state to make sure there's consistency for what all the COGs are asking for in their RFPs and their RFQs. So it's been a slow moving process. Appreciate folks hanging in there, but help is hopefully coming soon by the end of this year. So if you know of good grant writers that are out there looking for some additional work, by all means, send them our way. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mayor Dixon?
Yeah, I was just curious with the electrical grid questions we've been getting, if a visual exists that shows the grid and the generation sources and the capacity of those generation sources. And I would think that'd be something from CSU, but I just didn't know if something like that already existed. And if it did, I was just going to ask if anyone knew about it. Evidently.
And Madam Chair, I can check into that off the top of my head. I don't know if we have something like a map like that, but I can ask. I know some people over there.
If you could write out the questions for those of us that probably didn't understand what you said and send it out, that would be really helpful. And we might be able to get you the information. I got part of it. All right. Thank you.
I was just going to say ballots are mailed out next Monday, which also means that your polling centers will be opening. And so I still like to say to get your vote, to not put it in the mail, to find one of those really convenient drop boxes. There are cameras on all of them, and El Paso County does maintain all the data for El Paso County. And so I always encourage individuals to use the drop boxes as opposed to the post office, but it's time to vote. So we'll have plenty of voter service centers at El Paso County or EPC votes. And then the other counties, can go to Go Vote Colorado. So.
And you can still register to vote online and get a mail ballot, right?
Yes, I believe you can.
They were saying
yeah.
until the 30th or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact dates on that. But.
Okay. We were kind of talking about last night. And but if you don't register to vote, you give up your right to complain, right?
You can also register to vote on the day, although a lot of people are holding their ballots till the day of. And so we prefer, if you want to register to vote and vote in the polling center, that you go in a few days early to give the judges practice.
There you go. All right. I know we have one in Fountain at the library, as well as the drop-off box by the police station. I'm sure everybody can help your people find them. So they can go online and find out where all the boxes and polling stations are. Okay. All right. Any further? I don't see anybody online with an announcement. If you're down Fountain Way on Friday, starting at 9:00, we're having one of those huge, gigantic pumpkins. The guy's going to be carving it in front of City Hall all day. And then we'll see how long it lasts. That guy is apparently on HGTV Halloween Wars doing it right now, a show or something, and he's going to be in Fountain Friday. So he's, don't remember his name, but yes, sir.
And just as a general color report,
Yes.
there still is some decent color up. So if you're wanting something to do late this week or through the weekend, barring a heavy wind, there's actually, it's been a really extended color season. So it's a nice time to head up and do the loop to Cripple Creek and Florissant. And there's still, like I said, still some good color.
And spend some money.
And I will second
Spend
that.
a little money while you're there. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I guess
This
I
is
would be
Dick Elsner.
remiss. Oh, sorry, Dick Nelser.
Yeah, I just got back. I'll second that if you want to look at color, go to Teller County Stay off of 285, go to Teller County.
I would be remiss if I didn't, for Commissioner Geithner, emphasize that at Smith Farms out in Falcon, they dropped not one, but I think two pumpkins from a crane. Very large pumpkins, and apparently it is the highlight of many children's day to see those pumpkins burst. I asked what was inside of them, but apparently it's not candy. So
is that Saturday?
It is Saturday. So if you just don't quite get into the pumpkin carving, which
Well,
they
that's
do
Friday.
have a
That's Friday.
contest. So if you want
Yeah.
pumpkin carving, go down to Fountain. If you want to pumpkins dropping from cranes, go out to Falcon.
All right. Okay. Well, 11:06, meeting adjourned.